So now let's go ahead and start our next section, 2.2, which is about conditional statements. So remember, we saw conditional statements before. Those are the statements that are written in if-then form. So for example, if 4,686 is divisible by 6, then 4,686 is divisible by 3. So the first part of the statement, the part after the if, we call that the hypothesis. And then the part after the then, we call that the conclusion. And the way we notate a conditional statement is with an arrow from the hypothesis to the conclusion. So this means if P, then Q. So now let's talk about the truth table for a conditional statement. We have P, we have Q, we have 2 variables, which means we need 4 rows in our truth table. So now what does the truth table look like? So in the first row, your hypothesis is true and your conclusion is true, so it would be true. Now, in the second row, your hypothesis is true, but your conclusion is false, which means your conditional statement is false. Now, for the last 2 rows, your hypothesis is false, which means it's automatically true. So anytime your hypothesis is false, you're going to record a T. So this is what the truth table for our conditional statement looks like. The only time it's false is in the second row when your hypothesis is true, but your conclusion is false. And then our order of operations, because we introduced a new symbol, order of operations tells us that arrow is performed last. It's the last thing that you do. Okay, so let's construct a truth table for a conditional statement. Let's construct a truth table for the statement form P or not Q. If P or not Q, then not P. So first thing, when you're making truth tables, you've got to decide how many variables you have. I have a P and I have a Q, so that means I have 2 variables. So we're going to start our truth table with P, Q. And then 2 variables means 4 rows. True, 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 false, false, true, and false, false. So now let's start to build this statement form. So I notice I'm going to need not P. I'm also going to need not Q. So let's go ahead and make those 2 columns. We flip our P column. We flip our Q column. Now let's go ahead and make our hypothesis. So we're going to start by making our hypothesis P or not Q. So you're going to look at the P column, you're going to look at the not Q column and put an or between them. So we get true, true, false, true, So we've got our hypothesis done. So now let's go ahead and make our conclusion. Our conclusion is not P. So there's our conclusion, not P. Now I know we already have this column written down, but I like to have the hypothesis and conclusion next to each other. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that column down. So again, this is your hypothesis. This is your conclusion. So now let's form a column for our conditional statement. So our conditional statement, P or not Q, then not P. So you're going to look at your hypothesis and then look at your conclusion. So looking in that first row, we have a true hypothesis and a false conclusion. So that's a false. Same thing for the next one. It's identical. Now this row, the third one, our hypothesis is false, which means it's automatically true. And then in the last row, our hypothesis and our conclusion are both true, so this would be true. So this would be the truth table for that statement form. Make sure when you're doing these conditional statements, you do a column for the hypothesis, you do a column for the conclusion, and you do a column for the conditional statement overall at the end.